what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. Let's talk about Garrett Nussmeier, because Nuss has a big day, 3 more tuds, another 300 yards, 1 pick. He ends up, though, when it's all said and done, over 4,000 yards in his first year starting, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and it's impossible for me. And it's not just me. Like, I know when I talk about LSU, I have so much bias that I would never argue that anything I ever say is a fully objective opinion, because I think that's probably impossible per the definition of objective. I try to be, but it's not just me. I mean, if you look at the way too early Heisman odds, even before this game, remember, Garrett Nussmeier was second in the country. He's second on that list, I think only to Arch Manning. And then he comes out here, and with a new offensive line and new weapons, he doesn't take a sack. He dices up Baylor, and he finishes the season with 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks. And most importantly, you saw how he responds to adversity. We mentioned it during the year when he went through that slump where he throws a couple picks when guys are there that he's not expecting them to, and then he gets rattled a little bit, loses some confidence. When he went through that slump, it would have been real easy to completely crater. But he managed to get out of it. He managed to finish strong. Even in this game, he threw a similar pick to those that kind of broke him during the season. Guy not there, or, guy was there that he wasn't expecting to be there. All of a sudden, it's a bad pick. And he comes back and he finishes extremely strong and closes out the game. So what I've seen in Garrett Nussmeier, especially when you combine it with the context of Jaden Daniels year 1 and 2, JoJo Burrow, like all these other guys who come through recently, how could you not be over the moon excited about this guy coming back with the weapons that you just saw, and with adding guys like Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, adding a couple of linemen to that O-line that didn't give up a sack. Like the scramble when Mabinga got beat, one of the only times the O-line really got beat, but the fadeaway scramble throw to Aaron Anderson, and then next play is the touchdown to Chris. It's just really elite level stuff from your quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier.
I thought he played fantastic in this game. You're right. He had the mistake, and he knows that he's got to, fix situations like that. It was a coverage that he's going to be able to read almost every single time. He didn't in that situation, but he finds his way back. And you're right. You look at his top targets in this game, and, they weren't the top 3 guys that he had. Well, I wouldn't say top 3, but certainly 3 of the top 5 with C.J. Daniels in the transfer portal, now moving on. You don't have a Kyron Lacey. You don't have your biggest kind of security blanket in Mason Taylor as well. And I can't imagine as a quarterback what that's like to lose that guy going into a game like this, because that's who you typically look for on third downs. But shout out to Chris Hilton Jr. We talked about him so much in August, because if you went to training camp, and I mean, Tay talked about it, he went out there all the time, he was dominating. Yeah. And you were so excited. We all were so excited about what he could do. He gets hurt. I was actually at the practice that he got hurt, and you could tell like the air just went out of the building, because everybody kind of knew what he was going to do early in this season. Then he comes back, and he was rusty. We all know that. I mean, jumping for balls and not timing the jump, and then when he gets on the sideline with BK there, I believe that was the Florida game, and so, there was some trials and tribulations to him coming back, but then he gets a chance to get healthy. We saw it against Oklahoma, what he can do, and then he continues that. I mean, being there in the stadium, you almost felt bad for Baylor's corner, because he knew what was about to happen, and he still couldn't stop it.
No, I mean, Chris Hilton is such a unrepresented element on this team in terms of just being a true, very tall, long, deep threat. There is no other person on the team that represents the same skill set that Chris Hilton brings to the table, and it's so impactful. If you look at Oklahoma, you look at this game, it's hard to feel. I got to give a shout out to my friend, Professor Scott Burns. He says at Whiskey Wine that he's like, I think LSU's 1.5 wins better with Hilton. And I don't know. You can argue about the number, but he is so impactful that when you look at a guy like that, I believe his absence or his attendance can represent an actual result change, turning a loss into a win. Like, who knows what happens if you have him here all year long. But
it does so much, to your point. Like, so it does so much for your offense, and not just with the plays that you actually hit to Chris Hilton Jr. Like, those certainly are a part of the equation. But if you don't, and we saw it early in this game, everybody's a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. The running lanes aren't exactly there like they're going to be there if a safety group, if a corner group is terrified that they're going to get run by.
Yeah.
If they think they're going to get run by, what do? Well, they back up. They back up 2 full yards. And so those running lanes and a guy like Caden Durham and Josh Williams, in this game, that's all they need. They just need a little bit of room there, and they get going. And so it just even the threat of it changes the dynamics of your offense. And it was fun to kind of watch it play out in real time calling the game, because you could see it. You could see when Baylor's like, okay, we got to change. We can't do what we thought we could coming in to this game. And it just opens up so many things for you. Hard, heavy play action is going to be there, because when you have a deep threat like that, if the corner or if the safety is a half second late, Chris Hilton Jr. is going to run by them. I mean, even one of those, and Blair was joking on the broadcast, Hilton beat the DB so bad, and Nuss threw it as far as he could, but Hilton still had to wait on the ball. I mean, he had time because he beat the DB that bad off the line
one
of
that
scrimmage.
he came back on. I mean, it was that I kind of liked it though, because it showed it's easy to catch a perfect throw in stride when you've smoked the guy by 5 yards. When you smoke the guy by 5 yards and the ball's severely underthrown and you have to slide as you're being interfered with and tackled, and you still come up with a catch in the end, that actually makes me more excited than the cleaner first touchdown.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to just how high the skill ceiling could be on Chris Hilton.
Yeah, and you saw Chris Hilton Jr., you saw Aaron Anderson, who continues. I mean, you want to talk about most improved players on this football team. He is certainly up for that conversation from what he was year 1 to year 2. TreyDez Green was awesome, being the full-time
let's talk about TreyDez
tight end here. We get to Xavion Thomas as well, but TreyDez Green deserves, certainly to be talked about, because I give him a lot of credit for doing what he did through the air, but also being a willing blocker in the run game, which is something he's going to have to do with where this tight end room currently sits.
Yeah, setting the tone to at the beginning of the game. 4th and 5, opening drive. We know how the game played out, but at that point, there's a lot hanging in the balance. You're right at midfield. Look at how good Baylor's offense is against a defense that, in some parts, you're missing personnel. If you don't get that 4th and 5, there's a very good chance you go down 7-0 with them getting the ball after half. Like, the entire dynamic of the game changes, and yet you get it because of TreyDez Green. And then he finishes that drive with a touchdown. He comes on another touchdown later. He comes up with the uber athletic catch off of the batted ball that almost turns into first down. And as Jake said, valuable tight end blocking as well. They did not treat him as a wide receiver. They treat him as everything this game. But another guy, this is a true freshman. How could you not be over the moon about the potential that he has next season, especially now that he has this sort of game? He already had, I think, a year in which it was easy for him to gain confidence, but what a cherry on top where everybody leaves, and so he is thrust into the, okay, you are now the guy role. You're no longer a freshman. It's the last game this season, and he validated that faith, and he validated that kind of promotion by the coaching staff. So, yeah, TreyDez Green really just... Oof. I mean, because again, the body is something you can't teach. It's kind of like Chris Hilton. No. Physically, he represents something that you almost never see. So to see him actually have the mental ability to be willing, like the mental toughness, to be willing to try to block, and then the mental ability to understand the playbook, to handle so many varied roles, like his potential is first round pick NFL type potential.
I think it was maybe at South Carolina. It was early in the season on the road. I don't remember exactly what game, but I'm sitting there talking with Joe Sloan, and TreyDez Green walks by. He's like, you want to know what first rounders look like? They look like that guy. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I played against him and with some, and he looks like he's ready for that already. And so, like, the staff's excited about him. They've been excited all year. And I remember talking with Joe, and he's like, look, the guy's going to continue to get better. He's already gotten better each and every week, each and every practice that we've had. Each and every game we'll see something where we're like, okay, he didn't have that the prior game before. So the staff understands exactly where he's at now. You got to go get a new tight end coach. And I do think that's going to be important to you. Not oftentimes do we talk a lot of tight end coach, even when Mike Denbrock, who was your offensive coordinator, was your tight end coach. We didn't talk about it a lot.
No.
But with that room, you're bringing in a transfer Sharp from Oklahoma. You're going to try to pair him with TreyDez Green. I do think it is going to be pivotal to bring in somebody with a lot of experience at that position to be able to teach TreyDez Green how to be a true 3-down. You got to be a Y sometimes. You're going to live, being an F as well, but you got to know how to be a Y if they ask you to be a Y. I do think that hire is going to be important.
Well, and certainly LSU, I think, is hired very well in the assistant ranks as of late. So hopefully they can keep that momentum going. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.